Welkom terug. Dit is alweer de laatste workshop, het laatste programma, onderdeel van de Gulf Business Dialogue. We gaan ons verdiepen in de edele kunst van het pitchen. En we switchen naar het Engels vanwege onze expert Barbara Rogoski. With me are Barbara Rogoski, speaker coach for executives and the author of From Boring to Brilliant.
That's right.
And Duke Urbanik, entrepreneurial veteran involved with scale-ups, Yes Delft, and the Dutch Pavilion at the Expo in Dubai. Great having you. Duke, in 2019, you visited Dubai with your scale-up Delta Innovation and Trade mission. Why is pitching such an important skill, especially when you want to succeed in the Gulf region?
Well, you have only 1 minute to grab their attention. And there's also a big group, so you're one of the 20 maybe that are going to pitch. So you have to make sure that your points are made in this first initial contact. Preparation.
Yeah, you will share your insights, your lessons learned, of what works particularly well over there. Barbara, can you really work these skills? Can you master them, or do you need a certain given talent?
Oh, you can definitely master these skills. Some people are born outgoing and can really present a story and are confident, but everybody can learn how to tell their own story with passion and confidence and really bring it across when the time is needed. Absolutely, you can learn it.
Great, let's have a short evaluation of your starting level. We do that with the next poll, which appears on screen currently. How do you rate your own pitching skills? Please select the answer of choice, and don't worry, we will handle your answer anonymously. Yeah, so Barbara and Duke, I'd like to hand over to you, Barbara.
Okay. Well, when you talk about pitching, pitching is really an art form. It really is an art form because you can combine many things in a very short time, as Duke said. You have to tell about your company, what you're going to do, your vision, the competition, business planning, and what you want to accomplish in a very short time. But you can learn it through storytelling. Storytelling is also really important, becoming more important than ever in how we connect to the audience and convince them. So today we're here to share some tips, share some experience of presentation skills. I'm here to kind of give some tips that can be helpful for the audience to really think about what they can do to improve their skills.
And the majority, the results have just come in, and the
okay.
majority, 73%, rates themselves as average.
Average.
And 15% say they're excellent.
Okay, also.
And also, well, the rest, they consider that there is an opportunity to really improve.
Good.
For everyone, I guess.
Everyone can improve.
So let us know via the chat, what is your personal challenge? What do you fear the most, or what do you think is one of the points that you really want to work on or want to have some tips about, right? And we can weave them into the workshop.
Absolutely. Well, let's go. Let's go to the PowerPoint. Here's the agenda that we put together today. The challenges you face, as you suggest. We're going to get some feedback from the audience, we hope, about the challenges. We're going to talk about that. The questions to answer first. Before you put anything together, you have to answer some key questions about things, and we're going to talk about that. The key elements to include in your pitch. There are some really key elements that need to be in every time. Develop stories that show your value. Storytelling is becoming, as I said, more and more important. And how do you tell a story in 30 seconds when you only have 1 minute to pitch? How do you manage that? And what's your call to action? Every pitch requires a call to action. And that is in itself a mini speech that you should prepare really well. The call to action is very important in how you structure it in limited time. The trust factor, working in the Gulf, I understand that it's a trust factor, it's relationship building. How do you manage that? And I think Duke's going to speak to that. And then lessons learned. So this is kind of the agenda of what we're going to be talking about today. These are the points that we're going to be talking about. And just to say a little bit about myself, if I can, Eric. I'm an executive speaker coach, and I'm a TEDx speaker coach. I've worked with more than 100 TEDx speakers, especially with TEDx Binnenhof. I worked with their team on 3 or 4 events for TEDx, but we also had something called Ideas from Europe, which was one member from every European country came together in The Hague at Binnenhof and pitched their ideas. And I was able to coach all of them. to bring them to a higher level of presentation. So that was an amazing career moment for me, to be able to work with Binnenhof. I'm also a Yes Delft coach, so I'm a storyteller coach for them. And also I'm working with a women's group, FemStart, for women who are starting their own business and helping them with their stories and their pitch. So I'm quite active in the community to help women come up and raise up and dare to go into this field and do more. And now Duke, a little bit behind with the slides here, excuse me, I get excited and so I forget about the slides. And you mentioned I'm an author. So now I'd like to turn it over to Duke to talk about himself.
All right. Well, everything is there, that's for sure.
Everything is there.
My experience, I'm a serial entrepreneur, as they call it. I have had I'm now in my ninth venture, so to speak, ninth company. Last one is Masters of Scale, but also Yes Delft coach. And we did with Scale Up Delta, they organized and prepared the Dubai mission, innovation mission to Dubai, as you mentioned, which was great fun to do. So.
Great. Well, now we'd like to talk about some of the challenges that you face. So the first one is being clear on your message. Being clear on your message. That's really important because you have such a limited time. So what do you include and what do you not include? That's always a challenge to figure out what to say, because you have so much to say normally that you really have to figure out the key messages for your audience. What does the audience want to hear? Not about what you want to say, but what does the audience want to hear? That's the most important thing. Telling a story that they can relate to. If you tell a story, it needs to have some connection with your audience. If you tell something that doesn't relate to anything, that's not going to make an impact. You have to connect with them, tell a story that they can relate to, that they will nod about. Yes, I know that situation. I know that the problem is there. Establishing expertise. That's another thing. Trust. It's with the trust factor. Establishing expertise in what you are doing.
Maybe I tune in this. In Dubai, in the region, it's very important to build a relationship, build a trust between the parties. So you have to try to also listen to the other person. If you're into a pitch and you're just transmitting and not receiving anything, try to make it a dialogue. It's the Gulf business dialogue, but also in your pitch, try to make it a dialogue. Trust is a very important thing in the culture of the Emirates.
Absolutely, absolutely. The next point to consider is, why are you different? Why are you different from the 20 other companies that are going to pitch? How can you stand out? What's your USP? Why are you different? And that's really important. That's a key thing to include. And then lastly, in this area is delivering a virtual pitch. Delivering a virtual pitch is also different, because when you're in front of a group, you can see their body language and talk to them and follow if they're listening to you or if they're not. But virtually is different, Eric, because you have to work harder as a speaker. You have to sit tall, present yourself confidently, be able to communicate in a different way. Voice, vocal variety, facial expressions really matter here. And also checking in on your audience. Are the audience still with you? Are they bored? Are they connected? And you go down through the list and you can see body language from them, and then you have to kind of work on it and adjust and pivot based on the vibe you get, if they're getting what you're saying or they're not. So there's a lot more involved with virtual pitching and virtual presentations than live. So that's another factor that we all have to face now because of COVID.
Maybe to add to that, it's a clever idea to actually put your presentation materials on your website on a separate page, so that you can communicate during your pitch that everything can be read back and also shared with others by linking to the page. So make it a simple page from the root of your website.
Another thing to add on that, Duke, is that if you have a very complex presentation and you have a lot of information that you want to share, statistics and graphs and charts, and you really want to share a lot, you can make two. You can make one short PowerPoint or presentation that you're gonna share, and then you can also say there at the same moment, I have a more complex one, a wider range of information on this PowerPoint, and it's there for you to go download if you want it. Yep. So as you said, it's the way to keep it shorter and not worry that the audience is not going to get all the information that you want them to get. So that's some of the challenges we face. Has anyone written back, Eric, about the challenges?
Yeah, a new question just came in. I didn't receive any challenges so
Okay.
far, so perhaps they were not sent in, or perhaps they were not sent through to the studio, because we also have chat moderators. We're very selective, which is good as well. What specific points should you take into account considering the cultural differences when pitching?
Okay, do you want to take that one, Duke?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand that these people, in the culture, they have a hierarchy. There's a ruler in the country and there's a layered, these companies or these countries are run like a company, basically. So take into account of that and make sure that you understand what the position is of the people you're talking to. If they are important, if they are the boss, treat them as the boss. That's the important thing. And it's not like status, but it's like it's showing respect. That's basically it.
Yeah. That's the big difference.
The respect and listen to also to the other person. If you're getting into a one-to-one conversation, make sure that they get to say their thing.
Yeah, and I think 6 or 7 years ago I read an article, an interview of a female entrepreneur that went with a partner who was not an entrepreneur, and they went to visit a sheikh, and she could not deliver the pitch in that situation. Is that still the case?
Yes, and obviously in virtual situation it's different, but if you go to Dubai, you do not shake hands, you do not stretch your hand to a woman, because that's an insult. So what you do is you put your hand on your chest and you do the little bow. And they forgive you. But if you do respect it, if you from initially do that, they know that you have prepared, you have understand their culture, and you have scored 2-3 points extra.
Yeah, and also some basic language, how to greet, etc. That
Exactly.
should all be part of your preparation,
That's
right?
right. Yep.
That's the way to win the hearts
Yeah.
and open the interest as well.
And trust, build some trust, that you respect them. Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'd like to go on and talk about some of the things that you should answer first. The first thing that we do when I'm preparing someone for a pitch is I say, what is the takeaway message?
Yeah.
What is the one thing, of course, that you want the audience to take away if they don't remember anything else? You have 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, maybe sometimes 1 minute. What is the one thing you want them to take away? And you should establish that in your mind before you start to write anything down about your presentation, because that's what you want them to remember. If you're number 6 out of 20 and they have to hear the rest of the 20 speakers, why is yours going to stand out? So what's the takeaway? The next one is, what does your audience want to hear about? What does your audience want to hear about? Duke, maybe you can give some insight there. What did they want to hear about?
Well, you have to make sure that you identify what their pain is. What kind of pain you're trying to solve, and is this a pain that they experience? Because this is a totally different area. It's with other climate, with other quality expectations, with brand issues. They are like top brands because they think that top brands are top quality. So make sure that whatever you communicate, it is also addressing their expectations. So you can find out, and for instance, in Dubai and in the Emirates in general, food, water, and energy are the hot topics at the moment. If you're going to the Expo 2021 is now, it's about food, water, and energy. So if you have something that is like covering or adding or innovating that kind of one of these domains, you should actually make sure that you have that covered in your presentation.
Sometimes I even hear you need to stir up the pain before presenting the solution. Make people really relate to the big problem that they're facing before you, because a lot of entrepreneurs, they start off pushing their solution before they get people into the right context, into the right mindset first.
Yeah, you also, if you're pushing a solution and then the person that you're pushing it to doesn't feel that pain, you're not going to sell it.
Yep.
Right.
That's right.
So.
And also in that way, Eric, you should use visual words. You should really paint a picture of the problem, and so that they can see it. So you use visual words as a storytelling to start off your presentation, and that really connects straight away. So that's one big tip, is to figure out how you can talk about the problem where they see it, because that hits them more when they can see it straight away. Okay, so the next question is, what hero story or shiro story, we're being politically correct here, hero or shiro story, do you want to tell And the hero story or the Shiro story, I'm going to talk a little bit further in the presentation, but it's really important to identify the hero being your product or your service or your team or your company. Who is the hero and what do they want to accomplish? So I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but that's also really important these days in a pitch. Right, Duke?
Yeah.
To bring stories in and
storytelling is something that's easy that sticks to people's mind.
Yeah.
So.
Storytelling sticks. Okay? And then the last one is, what outcome do I want to achieve? Obviously. Do I want to ask them for funding? Do I want to just introduce myself to them? Do I want another objective? Do I have another thing that I want to accomplish here? So what is the objective? And that's what you go for. That's what you have in your mind as you're going for the presentation. So these are the questions to answer first, and just it's really meant for the listeners to just think about it. Think about before they put anything to paper to prepare. These are the important questions to ask. Okay, so the next slide we've got is key elements to include. This is really my specialty, Eric, because this is the content that I bring to every pitch that I help coach for. And these are the things that are the most important from my experience on what to include in a pitch. So the first thing that's on my list is the opening wow statement. Opening wow. It's important to start off. I prefer not to say, hello, my name is, thank you for having me, I'm so glad to be here. In some situations you have to be polite and address who's in the room. But I say, start off with an opening statement that really attracts them, or talk about the problem. You start straight off with the problem. No, okay, hello, yeah, none of that. Start straight off with the first word out of your mouth. Should be identifying a problem or having a wow statement to really grab the attention, because that sets the stage for the rest of the talk, is the opening wow. And then the next one is about you, your passion, your motivation, your vision. They do want to know that. They do want to know what drives you and why you're here. Why does this matter to you? Did you have something happen in your family that causes you to create a new product that makes the world better? They want to know about you and what gets you up out of bed in the morning, or what frustrates you or makes you angry. Emotion is also important here to really connect with the audience. And it's really important to show that in your presentation. Okay, the next one is 3. The number 3 is really important in presentation skills. When you have 3 things, you talk about only 3. If you talk about 4 or 5 or 6, it dilutes the first 3 that are the most important. Of course, there are times when you have 4 things or 4 elements of your product or so. That's a different situation. But if you want to talk about your product or your service, 3. 3 is really a magic number. And when you describe something, you don't describe it with more than 3 words, because, as I said, it dilutes the impact that you want to make. So 3 is an important number in presentation skills.
It's a big mistake that many people make, that put a lot of things on the sheet. I saw it passing by in previous presentations. People don't read that. No. Or if they start reading it, they don't listen anymore.
Right.
And as you see on the screen, I have what, why, how. Those are 3 main points. What is it? Why did we create it? And how do we use it, or how is it going to be used, or what's our vision? You can also do past, present, future, how it was before, and how it is today, what we're changing with our product or service, and what we're going to do in the future. So 3 main points is really a way to keep it together. Okay, the next one is the call to action. Obviously, this is really important, because you're asking for funding, asking for investment, asking for the next step. What is the call to action? What is the next thing that you want to accomplish? Always spend time on that, because it really matters. As I said in the introduction, the call to action is really a mini speech, a mini pitch within your other pitch, within your larger pitch. So the call to action is really important. What do you need? What do you need next?
Can I hook into that?
Yes, of course.
The funding is a thing that is previously, like 10 years ago, you would go to the Emirates and they would spend money, right? That is gone and over. If you want funding, you should have already traction there. You should have already contacts there. Funding is not an issue you should bring up in the initial conversation. You have a product or you have a service to offer, and also it needs to also be in partnership with somebody in the Emirates. They're not sending money abroad like that anymore. So that is over, out, gone.
Yeah. So the call to action has to include the things that are already kind of in place.
Partnership. How are we going, next appointment, one-to-one interviews, things like that.
Yeah, concrete. You have to state it. You have to speak it, right? You have to bring it up. Yep. Okay, and the next one is the closing wow, the closing wow inspirational statement. This is really important too. A lot of people don't spend time on the last thing they say in a pitch or presentation, and they really need to spend as much time as they do on the opening of the presentation. This is the last thing you tell. It's the last thing you leave with the audience because you want to make a good impression, as I said, if there are other people behind you. So the closing wow is just as important as the opening, and it should be a bit inspirational, a bit visionary. How is this going to make the world better? And you kind of do a microphone drop, like Obama did a microphone drop at the end of his presidency to really state it at the end. And that's what I suggest, to do a microphone drop last statement.
Great. And do you need to put in proof also?
Yes, proof. Proof, that's kind of a story in itself. It's a little bit different than the hero story. But proof on how things, what, if you want to...
Yeah, well, the going to Dubai or to Emirates in general, Far East in general, with ideation phase companies is not a good idea.
No.
Because probably they will steal your idea in some places, and they're not relating to it. So you have to have a finished product. You have to be ready to deliver. If you're trying to sell something and the delivery time is 1 year, I would wait 1 year and then go there when you're ready for it.
Yeah, but would you suggest that you have your track record in a kit ready on a website? Or is it really clever also to name drop like a nice project or a great...
If you have a big name in the region on your customer list, drop it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And also connect them. Because that's the thing, the trust factor, right? Because then there's somebody already trusted you in the region, and that will help you sell it.
Right.
And don't be afraid to name drop. Don't be afraid to name drop. If you have connections and you have permission to mention them, definitely drop names in, because names matter and they remember the names.
Yeah.
It's a reference.
As a reference, yep.
A question that's sent in, is it a good idea to include your own principles when it comes to human rights, labor work?
No.
In your pitch,
No.
never do.
I would say...
Well, you can bring it up, but if you do it initially, they'll
turn off.
They'll be very polite, but they will not do. Because what you're doing, you bring an extra problem in the equation.
Yeah.
And your message should be clear. You're there for you to sell your product, not to conquer the world or things like that.
Yeah.
Change the world. You can change the world, but that's implied.
Yeah.
I would never do it. I would never ever do it. It's also respect and a trust thing.
Yeah, unless it's main part of the solution you bring in, right?
Yes, if it's a social enterprise, obviously, but that's your business then, and that's different.
Yeah.
And you can talk about your passion and your vision. Why are you doing this? You can bring some of that in, but I would say limit it, absolutely limit it, wherever possible.
Also, what I would add, still, when we passed the subject, but there's a lot of female entrepreneurship in the region. Many women have high jobs there. So just if you go there, don't focus your attention to the males.
Good point.
Because the females sometimes are the ones that make the decision and are for sure in the execution.
Yeah.
So that's an important thing.
Great.
Excellent. And then one last point to keep in mind is the last thing, here we go, is the Q&A. Q&A is also part of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Q&A also matters because that in itself is also another little moment of doing a speech. If they ask you something and you don't know the answer, you're going to look bad. You want to be prepared for the Q&A as much as the pitch that you do. So what I say is to prepare 4 or 5 questions that you believe the audience would ask you. And then you answer those questions in a way that's kind of a mini speech too, so that it flows off your tongue, you have a really good answer, there's no it's clearly stated, so really spend time on the Q&A and prepare that really well, because that will come up and you want to be just as confident there as you are in your presentation.
It radiates knowledge, basically.
Yeah, and it shows when you're not prepared.
Yeah.
It shows lack of confidence, so we don't want that. We don't want that to hinder your success.
The question was sent in, is it advisable to make your pitch presentation bilingual, combine English and Arabic, for example?
If you can, I would. I can give you one example if we have time. We were in Dubai last time, and there were 2 guys there that spoke Arabic, and they opened in Arabic. If Abu Talib was our mission leader, he opens in Arabic. You have the room.
I love it. Huh?
They have the room.
Yeah.
So if you can, do it.
Great.
In the opening. And then just move over to English again after you made your initial statement that you're part of them and you, because that's very powerful.
Great.
And you can drop in, perhaps, if it fits throughout the presentation, maybe you drop in a statement or a phrase that keeps the connection there. I'm American, living in the Netherlands for 30 years, but I drop in Dutch things in my English, and they like it. The local people like it when you try to use some local words. So yes, I would definitely try to drop it in throughout the story.
Ah, cool.
Yeah. Okay, so the next part I'd like to talk about is the storytelling. Develop stories that show your value, because it's all about value, Eric. It's all about showing your value really quickly, to the point. What value do you bring and what problem do you solve? So when you develop a story, there are several elements to creating a story. The first one is identify the problem, as you said. Start with the problem. What is the problem that is out there? So say, for example, there's a product that's coming on the market that solves a big problem. You want to make the product the hero in your short story. The story that you drop into your pitch, it has to be really short and only 4 or 5 sentences to really have the impact that you want based on the time that you have. So you identify what the problem is in visual words, in 1 sentence, 2 sentences at the most. And then the obstacles to overcome. What are the obstacles? Just like in the movies and literature. The hero is there, or the shiro is there, and they're a normal person, or they have everyday life, and then all of a sudden some big obstacle comes. They have to wrestle with the obstacle. They have to go out and they have to, destroy the asteroid that's going to kill the planet. They go out and they do that, and then they come back after that, and then they're victorious.
Yeah. So there's movement involved. So you're already moving.
Absolutely.
It's a before and after that you're...
Yes, and it's about the obstacle that you face and you wrestle with and you overcome and live happily ever after. But that's a story. That's what a story is. That's what we like in literature.
Yeah.
So if we talk about that, the obstacle that we overcome and the hero, shiro, enters. That's the person, product, team. It can be anything. Anything can be the hero as long as you can go through these steps and illustrate it. And also the next one is the struggle, the obstacle that they have to overcome. This is really important to be clear. It's part of the problem, the obstacle that they overcome. The next one is the hero or the shiro saves the day, and how. How is this product going to save the day or this service? What's it going to do? What's the future? What's the vision of this product? How is it going to save the day, as we would say? And then the last one is the moral of the story, the happily ever after. As a result of this, or introducing this product, we are going to, or it's going to improve something. So that's the moral of the story. That's the last line that you say in a story. And you see I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I got six things here, so you shouldn't have more than 6 sentences in your story. 6, 7 sentences, really short. So it's not easy to build a story in 6 sentences, but you can do it. And the shorter you make it, the more impact it will have.
Wow.
So this is how you add a story to it. You drop your story into the pitch to really connect with the audience. And it can be at the beginning, middle, or the end. You just have to figure out where it fits the best.
Very powerful structure, huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really
like
works.
the TED Talks are also very formatted, and it gets across. It really touches you.
Absolutely.
It reaches out.
It's
Very
a special
powerful.
style, TEDx.
Yeah, great.
Okay, so the next part that we want to speak about is the call to action. Of course, I mentioned this twice before, but what is your call to action, and how are you going to present it? Duke, would you like to take this one a bit and talk about call to action in this situation?
Well, I would talk to people in the area, I would try to get my call to action would be, let's continue this conversation. Because you will never be able, you're not going to sell it in a presentation with like 100 other people on the line, like in a webinar like this. So I would try to reach out and see, is there contact points? Try to get some feedback from, did it land? And then try to get the next appointment. Also try to get, what do they need? And put that on your action list. So what would you need from me to get into business with me? That's an important one. Ask for the order. That's the other thing.
Yes,
ask for the order.
Yes. Yeah, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to name drop. Don't be afraid to ask for the order, because that's what it's about.
Are we going to do business together? Just straight ask them. And then they will come up and say, yes, well, because you know where you are. Because you can leave like a mission like that with the idea that you have done big business and nothing comes out of it. You never hear of them again. So.
Yeah. Okay.
Time is not so much on our side. We need to already go towards the closing, and we still have the trust factor to cover and some lessons learned.
Yeah.
Yes.
While we covered this, I think it's important that you respect your opponent. When they When they understand that you understand their culture, you understand the way they do business, they'll be prepared. They open up, basically. I've made contacts there that I still cherish. Maybe you press on as well. This is one of a picture of the Dubai mission. What's important that you keep in contact with the other mission members. But what happens is the other mission members have contacts with other companies, and sometimes it is also your company, your customer. We still have contacts with the app group of the Dubai mission is still there, it's very much alive. I posted this particular webinar on that, and everybody is now watching it. So make sure you keep in contact. Can you do the next one? Other thing is build a relationship and also understand who you are talking to. That guy that sits there, I initially thought was the innovation manager. We were at Aramco. Aramco is the biggest oil company in the world.
At this point, he's not completely convinced just yet.
No, because he was the CEO of Aramco.
Whoa.
And, yeah. So you end up all of a sudden with somebody that is way higher than you expect.
That's the biggest oil company in the world.
Exactly.
Right? And this is the biggest chief.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So you're sitting there and you talk to him, and afterwards I learned who he was. So that's something you should prevent. I managed to get my ass out of there, but still. So that's the last one. Also, use your network and connect with the embassy. I think that's important. We are here from Foreign Affairs. The embassy and consulates have excellent people there that are connected to everybody in the country. So if you want to talk to somebody, connect to the technical attaché in the embassy or the consulate, and they will help you. So, and then build that network, maintain it, keep in touch, send updates.
You told me beforehand that this mission that you just talked about was exceptionally successful,
Yes.
especially because every entrepreneur that came along spent a lot of time preparing
Yes.
the right pitch, right?
We had a preparation session, like a workshop like this actually, where we asked the mission leader, Major Abu Taleb, to actually tell us how we would deal with the culture thing. And also we had somebody from Dubai Chamber, and that's just a tip also, connect to Dubai Chamber. Because they are it's like not the Chamber of Commerce, but they are the linking pin to the commerce there and us. And we had them on the spot here in Holland as a preparation. That went well. 120 million turnover of the whole mission within a couple of weeks.
Incredible. And the preparation, that is the key to success.
Yeah.
Thank you very much
Absolutely.
for sharing these great tips.
Sure.
It's going to be a lot of work to get it right, to get it just right.
It's worth
but
it, though.
It's absolutely worth it. Thank you
Yes.
so much, Barbara Rogoski en Duke Urbanic.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
En daarmee komen we aan het einde van de Gulf Business Dialogue. Van 22 maart tot en met 1 april vindt de digitale handelsmissie naar de Golfregio plaats. Gericht op de Verenigde Arabische Emiraten, Qatar en Oman. En vooral langs de as van de sectoren water, energie, voedsel en e-health. We zetten kansen op een rij en we bieden op die virtuele handelsmissie echt uitgekiende matchmaking. Dus meld je aan via de RVO-website. En ook kun je met jouw vragen terecht, zoals eerder ook gezegd, bij het economisch netwerk van de ambassades in de regio. En ze hebben in de komende periode extra capaciteit vrijgemaakt om jouw vragen te beantwoorden. Dus maak daar graag gebruik van. En hoe je in contact komt, dat lees je ook in de mailing die je na afloop ontvangt. Tot slot willen we je graag nog 3 vragen stellen in een korte enquête die direct in beeld verschijnt. Fijn als je die nog even wil beantwoorden. Heel veel dank voor je belangstelling. Succes met ondernemen over de grens. En voor nu, een hele fijne dag.